Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama Hare Namaiva Kevalam Hello Nastyeva 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 Gatir Anyatha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivas Adi Go Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Haraye Namaha Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopala Govinda Rama Shri Madhusudana Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshaman Krishna 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 Pahimam Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshamam Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahimam. Show me by show of hands if everything sounds good. Okay, thank you. So we're continuing the Krishna-lila. Today we come to a significant point in this Krishna-lila because we're going to hear two pastimes, and these two pastimes intermingle with another pastime which we will read about next week. So there's two episodes today. The first one is called The Picnic. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Once, Lord Krishna desired to go early in the morning with all his cowherder boyfriends to the forest, where they were to assemble together and take lunch. As soon as Krishna got up from bed, Krishna blew his buffalo horn bugle and called all his friends together. Keeping the calves before them, they started for the forest in a great procession. In this way, Lord Krishna assembled thousands of his boyfriends. Each were equipped with a stick, flute, and horn, as well as a lunch bag, and each of them was taking care of thousands of calves. All the boys appeared very jolly and happy in this excursion. Each and every one of them, including Krishna, was attentive to his personal calves as they herded them in the different places in the forest. The boys were fully decorated with various kinds of golden ornaments, and yet, out of sporting propensities, they began to pick up flowers, leaves, twigs, peacock feathers, and red clay from different places in the forest, and they further decorated themselves in different ways. And while passing through the forest, one boy stole another boy's lunch package and passed it on to a third. And when the boys whose lunch package was stolen came to know of it, he would try to take it back, but the boy who had then threw it to another boy. And so this sportive playing went on amongst the boys as their childhood pastimes. When Lord Krishna went ahead to a distant place in order to see some specific scenery, the boys behind Krishna ran to catch up and be the first to touch Krishna. And so there was a great competition. One boy would say, "I will go there and touch Krishna." And another boy would say, "Oh no, you cannot go. I shall be the first to touch Krishna." Some of them played on their flutes or vibrated bugles made of buffalo horn. Some of them gladly followed the peacocks and imitated the onomatopoetic sounds of the cuckoo. And while the birds were flying in the sky, the boys would run after the bird's shadow along the ground and try to follow their exact course. Some of the boys went to the monkeys and silently sat down by them, and some of them imitated the dancing of the peacocks. Some of the boys caught the tails of the monkeys and played with them, and when the monkeys jumped into a tree, the boys followed. When a monkey showed its face and teeth, the boy would imitate and show his teeth to the monkey. Some of the boys played with the frogs on the bank of the Yamuna, and when out of fear the frogs jumped into the water, the boys immediately dove in after them. And they would come out of the water, and they saw their own shadows and stand imitating, making caricatures and laughing. They would also go to an empty well and make loud sounds, and when the echo came back, they would call it ill names, and they would laugh. Lord Krishna, who awards the impersonalist the pleasure of Brahman realization by his bodily effulgence, also gives pleasure to the devotees as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are under the spell of the external energy, Maya, take Krishna only as a beautiful child, and yet Krishna gave full transcendental pleasure to the cowherder boys who played with him. It was only after accumulating heaps of pious activities that these boys were promoted to personally associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, who can estimate the transcendental fortune of the residents of Vrindavan? They were personally seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. That very God whom many yogis cannot find, even after undergoing severe austerities, although Krishna is sitting right there within their hearts. It is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita that one may search for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by going through the pages of the Vedas and Upanishads. But it is difficult to find Krishna actually there. However, one who is fortunate enough to associate with a devotee can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. After accumulating pious activities in many, many previous lives, the cowherder boys were seeing Krishna face to face and playing with Krishna as friends. They could not understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they were playing with Krishna as intimate friends. Why? Because these boys had attained intense love for Krishna. So before we go to the second part, one point that needs to be mentioned. One time, Prabhupada sang the song, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. He sang the whole song, and then he gave an explanation, a purport. And one of the amazing things Prabhupada said at this one time, Prabhupada was saying, Gopi Jana, that it is the goal of the Krishna consciousness movement to become one of the Gopi Janas, one of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. So, we're hearing this pastime, and these pastimes are ever going on, either in the material world or constantly in the spiritual world. We learn from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya that somewhere in the universe, this pastime which we just read is right now going on in some material universe. In this way, all of Krishna's pastimes are continually being exhibited somewhere in this material creation. So Prabhupada said the goal of this Krishna consciousness movement is to become one of the Gopi Janas. So what does that mean? You too can actually enter into this pastime. You yourself. So how to do that? You're doing it. The more you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the more you read these nectarian histories of Krishna, you are that much closer to entering these Nitya Lila, it is called, eternal pastimes. Yes, you can also personally participate. You simply have to qualify yourself. You simply have to purify yourself. So the whole process of Krishna consciousness is, as Lord Chaitanya says, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of the heart. That is what we are doing. When we chant, when we read or hear these pastimes of Krishna, we are cleansing our heart. And when the heart is completely cleansed, then you are eligible to enter into Krishna's pastimes, Nitya Lila. We learned, and I repeated so many times, that famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam, evang yoveti tatvataha, tyakva dehang punar janma, naiti mameti sarjuna. Krishna said in chapter 4 of the Gita that if you can understand the transcendental nature of his birth and his activities, meaning his Leela, if you understand them in truth, without speculation, without sentimentality, then you are not coming back to take birth in this material world, but you're going to go to Krishna and participate personally in his Leela. So attending this class every week is the greatest benediction you can give for yourself. This is the best thing you can do, is attend this class and never miss a class, especially now that we are doing Krishna-lila. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So now we go to the next part. Aga Asura, the serpent demon. And you see the picture behind me. That is now going to be described. When Lord Krishna was enjoying his childhood pastimes with his boyfriends, one Aga Asura demon became very impatient. He was unable to tolerate seeing Krishna play so happily, and therefore Aga Asura appeared before the cowherder boys, intending to kill them all. This Aga Asura was so dangerous that even the denizens of heaven were afraid of Aga Asura. Although the denizens of heaven drink nectar daily to prolong their lives, they were afraid of this Aga Asura, and they were wondering, when will this demon be killed? The denizens of heaven used to drink nectar to become immortal, but actually, they were not confident of their immortality. On the other hand, the boys who were playing with Krishna had no fear of the demons. They were free of fear. So two things so far to be explained. What is the nature of a demon? A demon is envious and jealous. As it said here, he was unable to tolerate seeing Krishna play so happily with the cowherder boys. Jealousy and envy is the original sin. That is why each and every one of us, top to bottom, why we are here in the prison of material existence. Somehow or other, we are envious and jealous of Krishna's position as God. But now, we are on the rectifying platform. We are rectifying our position, and we're getting rid of jealousy and envy. Now, another point here, that in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second verse, we find a phrase, Paramo Nirmatsaranang Satam. What is the qualification to actually penetrate Srimad Bhagavatam, or this Krishna book? Just like we studied in our Bhagavad Gita course, the reason why Arjuna was selected by why Arjuna was selected by Krishna, what was Arjuna's qualifications? Bhaktosi me Saka Cheti. Arjuna was the recipient of Bhagavad Gita because he was Krishna's friend and Krishna's devotee. And so the Bhagavatam and this Krishna book also has a qualification. In order to actually appreciate and relish these pastimes, I must become free from jealousy and envy. Now the narration continues. It said On the other hand, the boys who were playing with Krishna had no fear of the demons. They were free of fear. And that immediately reminds me of my favorite bhajan. Bhaja hure mana Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Abhay, fearlessness. Bhaya, fear, is one of the 4 symptoms of material existence. So, if you want to transcend fear, Abhaya Charanara Vindare, then you must take shelter of Krishna. So Prabhupada continues, any material arrangement for protecting oneself from death is always unsure. But if one is in Krishna consciousness, then immortality is confidently assured. The demon Aga Asura thus appeared before Krishna and his cowherder friends. Aga Asura happened to be the younger brother of Putana and Baka Asura. And so Aga thought, Krishna has killed my brother and sister, and now I shall kill Krishna along with his friends and calves. So we studied those. The first demon that was killed was a woman, Putana. And then later we heard the story of Baka Asura, the duck demon. Krishna bifurcated its beak and killed. So now this Aga Asura is the younger brother. For Aga Asura had been instigated by Kamsa, so he had come with determination. Aga Asura also thought that when he would offer grains and water in memory of his brother and sister and kill Krishna and all the cowherder boys, then automatically all the inhabitants of Vrindavan would also die. Generally, for the householders, the children are the life and breath force. When all the children die, then naturally the parents also die on account of strong affection for them. Aga Asura, thus deciding to kill all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, expanded himself by the yoga siddhi called Mahima. So there are 8 kinds of mystic perfections the yogi can achieve. This Mahima means that you can become bigger than the biggest, or you can become smaller than the smallest, lighter than the lightest, heavier than the heaviest. 8 different kinds of yoga siddhis or perfections. Prabhupada comments, the demons are generally expert in achieving almost all kinds of mystic powers. In the yoga system, by the perfection called Mahima Siddhi, one can expand him or herself as one desires. The demon Aga Asura expanded himself up to 8 miles and assumed the shape of a very fat serpent. Having attained this wonderful body, he stretched his mouth open just like a mountain cave. See the picture behind me, there it is. He desired to swallow all the boys at once, including Krishna and Balaram. However, on this particular day, Balaram was not present. And why was he not present? Because Balaram was home preparing for his birthday party. Aga Asura thus lay on the path. The demon, in the shape of a big fat serpent, expanded his lips from land to sky. his lower lip touching the ground, and his upper lip touching the clouds. Asura's jaws appeared like a big mountain cave without limitation, and his teeth appeared just like mountain summits. His tongue appeared to be a broad traffic way, and Asura was breathing just like a hurricane, his eyes blazing like fire. But at first, the boys thought that Asura was just a statue. But after examining it, they saw that it was a big serpent lying down on the road, widening his mouth. The boys then began to talk among themselves. "Dear friends, this figure appears to be a great animal, and he is sitting in such a posture just to swallow us all. Why, just see, is it not a big snake that has widened its mouth to eat all of us?" One of the cowherder boys then said, "Yes, what you say is true. This animal's upper lip appears just like the sunshine, and its lower lip is just like the reflection of red sunshine on the ground. My dear friends, just look to the right and left-hand side of the mouth of the animal. Its mouth appears to be like a big mountain cave, and its height cannot be estimated. Its chin is also raised just like a mountain summit, and that long highway appears to be its tongue, and inside the mouth it is as dark as a mountain cave. That hot air which is blowing like a hurricane is his breathing, and the fishy, bad smell coming out of his mouth is the smell of his intestines." Then the cowherder boys further consulted amongst themselves. "However, now, if we all at one time entered the mouth of this great serpent, how could it possibly swallow all of us? And even if it were to swallow all of us at once, it could not possibly swallow Krishna, and Krishna will immediately kill him, just as he did Asura." So here's something to be noted. See how fearless the cowherder boys are. For the cowherd boys, had already seen, they just mentioned, they saw Krishna kill Asura, and they saw Krishna kill previous demons while they were in the forest. So the cowherd boys had complete faith in Krishna. This is another symptom of being one of the Gopi Janas, that you have complete faith in Krishna. That is also the goal of Krishna consciousness, to come to the stage where you have complete faith in Krishna. Talking in this way, all the boys looked at the beautiful lotus-like face of Krishna, and they began to clap and smile, and so they marched forward and entered the mouth of the gigantic serpent, Aga. Meanwhile, Krishna, who is the supersoul within everyone's heart, could understand that the big statuesque figure was indeed a demon. The boys did not know this, however, and thus, while Krishna was planning how to stop the destruction of his intimate friends, all the boys, along with their cows and calves, entered the mouth of the serpent. But Krishna did not enter. Still, the demon was awaiting Krishna's entrance. Asura was thinking, Everyone has entered except Krishna, and Krishna was the one who killed my brother and sister. Prabhupada now comments, Krishna is the assurance of safety to everyone. But when Krishna saw that his friends were already out of his hands and were lying within the belly of a great serpent, momentarily Krishna became aggrieved. Krishna was also struck with wonder at how his external energy works so wonderful. Krishna then began to consider how he could kill the demon and at the same time save the boys and calves. Although there was no factual concern on Krishna's part, Krishna was thinking like that. Finally, after some deliberation, Krishna also entered the mouth of the demon Aga. When Krishna entered Aga-asura, all the demigods who had gathered to see the fun and who were hiding within the clouds expressed their feelings with the words, "Alas! Alas!" At the same time, all the friends of Aga-asura, especially Kamsa, who were all accustomed to eating flesh and blood, expressed their jubilation, understanding that Krishna had also entered the mouth of the demon. And while the demon was trying to smash Krishna and his companions, Krishna heard the demigods crying. So Krishna immediately began to expand himself within the throat of the demon. Although Aga-asura had a gigantic body, the demon choked by the expansion of Krishna. His big eyes moved violently, and Aga-asura quickly suffocated. His life air could not come out from any source, and so it immediately burst out of a hole in the upper part of his skull. Thus, his life air passed off. After the demon was killed, Krishna, with his transcendental glance alone, brought all the boys and calves back to consciousness and came out with them from the mouth of the demon. So, that's a point to note, that Krishna's senses are interchangeable. Krishna can do anything with any one of his senses. So even though the cowherder boys and calves seemingly had died entering the mouth of Aga-asura, Krishna was able to rejuvenate them simply by glancing upon them. So this is something to remember when you go before the deity and take darshan of Krishna. That darshan of Krishna's murti is able to revive you. While Krishna was in the mouth of Aga-asura, the demon's spirit soul came out like a dazzling light, illuminating all directions, but waited in the sky. As soon as Krishna came out of the mouth of the demon with his calves and friends, the glittering effulgent light immediately merged into the body of Krishna within the vision of all the demigods. The demigods became overwhelmed with joy and showered flowers on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and the demigods thus worshipped Krishna. The denizens of heaven danced in jubilation, and the denizens in Gandharva Loka offered various kinds of prayers. Drummers beat drums in jubilation. The Brahmanas recited Vedic hymns. And all the devotees of the Lord chanted the words, Jai, Jai. All glories to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Lord Brahma heard those auspicious vibrations, which sounded throughout the higher planetary system, Brahma immediately came down to see what was happening. Brahma saw that the demon was killed, and Brahma was struck with wonder at the uncommon glorious pastimes of the personality of Godhead. The gigantic mouth of the demon remained in an open position for many days and then gradually dried up. It remained a spot of pleasure pastimes for all the cowherder boys. The killing of Aga-asura took place when Krishna and all his cowherd boyfriends were under the age of 5 years old. Children under 5 years old are called Kaumara. From 5 years up to the 10th year, they are called Pauganda. And from the 10th year up to the 15th year, they are called Kaishora. After the 15th year, boys are called Yovanas or youths. But for 1 year, there was no discussion of the incident of the Aga-asura demon in the village of Vraja. The reason for this was the boys attained their 6th year. They informed their parents of the incident with great wonder. So since there was a break, I'll repeat that. For 1 year, there was no discussion of the incident of the Aga-asura demon in the village of Braja. But when the boys attained their 6th year, they informed their parents of the incident with great wonder. Maharaj Parikshit, who was engaged in hearing the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, because Lord Krishna had saved the life of Maharaj Parikshit while he was in the womb of his mother, Parikshit became more and more interested to hear about Krishna. And thus Parikshit questioned the sage Shukadeva Goswami, who was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam before the king. King Parikshit was a bit astonished to understand that the killing of the Aga-asura demon was not discussed for 1 year until after the boys attained the Pauganda age. Maharaj Parikshit was very inquisitive to learn about this, for he was sure that such an incident was due to the working of Krishna's different energies. And while Maharaj Parikshit was hearing these transcendental pastimes, Parikshit considered himself to be very fortunate, because not only was he hearing Krishna's pastimes, but he was doing so from Shukadeva Goswami, the greatest authority on Srimad Bhagavatam. Thus, being requested by Maharaj Parikshit, Shukadeva Goswami continued to speak about the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna in the matter of his form, quality, fame, and paraphernalia. So the pastime continues. Next week, we will see what happens, because all these pastimes are linked up. So now, for your protection and for your blessings, I sing the prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev, and then we will have questions and answers. And I hope, Deepak, you have a question. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praklada Klada Dayani. Praklada Klada Dayani. Hiranya Kashipur Vakshaha. Hiranya Kashipur Vakshaha. Shilatangana Kalaye. Shilatangana Kalaye. Ito Nrsinga Parato Nrsimho. Ito Nrsinga Parato Nrsimho. Yato yato yamitato Nrsimha. Yato yato yamitato Nrsimha. Bahir Nrsimha Hridaye Nrsimho. Bahir Nrsimha Hridaye Nrsimho. Nrsimham Adim Sharanam Prapadye. Nrsimham Adim Sharanam Prapadye. Nrsimham Adim Sharanam Prapadye. Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam. Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Bringam. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha, Jaya Jagadisha, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajacharya Astotra Satya Sisiman. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se koho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Syam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Kam Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Yamuna Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shramaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the Cologne devotees. All glories to the Cologne devotees. All glories to the Cologne devotees. Hari 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 Bo.